Chapter 11. Jagan barricaded himself in completely. He derived a peculiar excitement in performing all the actions of purificatory nature. He shut the communicating door between his part of the dwelling and Mali's and locked it on his side. So the idea here is, so chapter 11 starts with a kind of a revelation. What's the revelation? Jagan barricaded himself means Jagan kind of isolates himself. He just built a kind of a barrier, right? So barricaded means a kind of a wall, a kind of separation, a kind of a partition, right? So he partitioned his side completely. Means there are no what you call crevices, so there are no fissures, so there are no holes or entrance or exits in that side. He completely kind of insulates himself. He kind of completely separates himself. He derived a peculiar excitement. Peculiar means kind of weird, kind of a strange, eccentric, odd, kind of a strange excitement, enjoyment in performing all these actions of purificatory nature. So he was having a little bit of fun, in other words, right? Having a kind of a excitement, having a kind of a very personal enjoyment in kind of separating himself from the part of Mali and where Grace lived, because it says like performing all actions of purificatory nature. And that's like cleansing, a kind of a bleach, kind of a he cleans himself. That's the way. In other words, right? What he says, like, I don't want even to stand around. I don't want to stay even where your breath is just, or just like the air of you just hits me, right? That's the idea. He want to completely isolate himself, purificate nature. He shut the communicating door between his part of the dwelling and Mali's and locked it on his side. So even communication is cut off. The communicating door where they can, like talk with each other, right in the case, is also just locked, and he just locked it on his side means he bolted the door. He did everything possible to insulate himself from the evil radiations of an unmarried couple living together. So he did everything possible to insulate. Insulate means again, in other words, is barricading. It's like just covering oneself to the point that no external or extraneous influences can just anymore harm you. That's insulating himself from the evil radiations. There you go. So these guys, this his own son and this strange lady. Now this woman is no longer daughter-in-law, right? Strange lady who lives in sin that sends a lot of evil radiation, evil kind of polluting, kind of this emanating radiation. You know, as a radiation, right? This harmful kind of what you call this waves. So he's kind of protecting himself here. Evil radiations of an unmarried couple living together. There was a ventilator between the two portions of the house. He dragged up an old stool and, with the help of a long bamboo, shut it tight. I mean, that's even the ventilator. You know what's the purpose of ventilator, right? It's like cleaning air. It's just taking, it's like kind of exhaust fans, right? These ventilators are just like small shutters, small windows, right? Just make sure the airflow is intact, it's continuous. So when the ventilator is there, you don't feel that heat, you don't feel the air is just, it's uncomfortable. It's so ventilator is there for that purpose. You know, it's like a small shutters, like in bathrooms you have ventilators. Purpose is just to keep the airflow constant. So this guy, there was even a ventilator. This shows the kind of humorous extent, because for us this is very humorous, right? For the reader, it's a very humorous experience just to see, like, oh my God, see the extent this man, the father, goes just to kind of shut himself in his own house. But for him, it's serious. But for him, he's serious. The seriousness is shown to the extent that he goes just to even shut the ventilator. How did he do it? He dragged up an old stool and with the help of a long bamboo, kind of shut it, right? He can't just approach it, so he used a long bamboo just to shut it. Try to visualize the mental imagery here, right? Bamboo shut it tight. Now with the isolation, more an insulation was complete. Now it's not like isolation, it's kind of insulation, right? Now in electric cables you find this insulation is a kind of a completely sealed, completely tight way of covering these wires just to make sure the safety is there. So it a kind of complete, a complete kind of a barricading himself is the idea here, right? So it's not kind of just barricading, it's not a kind of isolation, it's a kind of insulation. So you got to know the difference between insulation and isolation, right? Was complete. He gave up the use of the front door. He's not using the front door anymore, as it took him through a common passage trodden by the feet of the tainters. There you go. Why didn't he like the front door? I like use the front door because Mali and Jagan, because Grace and Mali was using the front door, so it was like a polluted way, polluted path, right? It's tainted by the have you have the use of the front door, as it took him through the common passage trodden means walking, stomping, walking. So by walking, Mali and Grace has polluted the front part, even the uh, ground. So he's tainted, infected, corrupted. It's kind of defiled. So he doesn't want to even use that part. Okay. The whole morning he kept himself busy with these arrangements, dragging the stool hither and thither and shifting the ladder. He's a busy man. He suddenly, right, he's make a decision just to barricade himself. I don't want you guys anymore. Just don't disturb me. I hate I hate what you have done. You are just kind of, in other words, like, this is, I mean, like, don't use these words, but this is the idea. You are kind of shitty people. I don't want your shit. Just come completely. I want to be free, right? Don't bother me. And that's a kind of a message maybe he's giving out by completely barricading. Kind of unconscious element is there as well, right? Yes, we'll find out these things later. A whole morning he kept himself busy with this arrangement. He was busy. Like, in other words, he was not going into the shop, right? Morning ritual was he's going to the shop. But now today it seems like he was busy with this arrangement, dragging the stool here and there and shifting the ladder, covering, insulating. After locking the back door of his house when he left for his shop, yeah, now he has locked the back door and leaving for his shop, right? He took the side lane which led to the main street. He noted that the path was overgrown with thorns and weeds. Now, for the first time, he's taking a side lane. A kind of a side lane means it's not that popular road he took previously, but he's taking now a different road just to go to his shop. And he noted certain things. He noted that this path was overgrown with thorns and weeds. Now, this path, because it was not been in use for a while, is overgrown, covered with thorns and weeds. I must take out my spade and clear it. He said to himself. He thought of like cleaning, getting rid out of this weed and thorns and this prickly kind of plants. Nearly 50 years had elapsed since he had traversed this lane. Nearly after 50 years, he is traversing, means traveling, moving on this lane. And it brings the memory back to him. It's a reminiscence. It's a kind of a flashback, right? In those days, when his father family has lived in a hut in the backyard and front portion was growing up little by little, he and his brother used to hunt for grasshoppers amidst the weeds. Now he remembers, right, how he and his brother were having a good time. They were like kids uh, in their in their uh, childhood times. They were having some fun here, right? He and his brother used to hunt for grasshoppers amidst the weeds. They were hunting grasshoppers, right? All the blazing afternoons they would be active in the pursuit while the Malgudi summers scorched everything, and even the grasshoppers were reluctant to leave the poultry shade of the weed plants. At a time, there are certain hot seasons. At a blazing afternoon means like a scorching, very hot. Blaze means actually it's a flame, right? So it's a kind of extended metaphor here. It just says no, it's like a hot afternoon. They would be active in the pursuit. They were just in this game of catching grasshoppers. While the Malgudi summer scorched everything, this is the summer season and it's very hot. Malgudi summer means this hot season scorched. Scorched means what? It's kind of a burned. It means that the idea is very hot. It's very hot. Insanely hot. And it's kind of a drying everything to the extent as if burning, right? Sometimes you feel when you go out in the summer season, right? You are kind of scorched. Huh? බිත්තරයක් තිබ්බොත් half boil කරලා ගන්න පුළුවන්, right? There are certain days, right? Crazy hot days. Uh, were reluctant to leave the summer scorched everything, and even the grasshoppers were reluctant to leave the poultry shade of the wheat plants. And even grasshoppers are so tired, right? They even doesn't like to leave the shade, so they are also kind of sticking to one place. They are not even moving. And these are the ideal time for grasshopper hunt. Grasshopper hunting, right? So you may think like, what's so exciting about grasshopper hunting? That's the way they played in their young days, right? Those days, in old days, that's how even kids played. Kids had, what were the playthings for kids? They were using these, coconut like husks, or just we played cricket with coconut husks sometimes in school. That's our youth, right? Now things are changed. You have all these gimmicks, and you have all this YouTube, and I don't know, gaming things, and portals, and I don't know, game boxes, and whatnot. In old days, kids played with dirt, right? Our generations, our forefathers, probably the toys were dirt, right? මට තමයි සෙල්ලම් බඩු sometimes, right? වැලි තමයි සෙල්ලම් බඩු. වැලි කෝම්පිට්ටු ගැව්වේ. තමයි ඒ කාලේ. දැන් පොඩියට වැලි කෝම්පිට්ටුවක් දුන්නොත් they'll just hit the father with the කෝම්පිට්ටු itself. Like it doesn't make any sense. Generations have changed, right? කාලේ වෙනස්. So don't be amazed, right? Like in those days, catching grasshoppers was kind of a fun activity for kids. It's kind of a leisurely kind of a act. So grasshoppers were reluctant to leave the poultry shade of the weed plants. Means even grasshoppers are very tired, or just they don't want to leave the shade because it's too hot outside. So they stick to one place, right? The idea here is, again, I had to explain. If you don't get this, if you light certain kind of mosquito coils, right? Sometimes even the mosquitoes are getting so dizzy, they stick to the wall and they don't move, right? සමහර කොයිල් තියෙන පත්තු කරගම මේ මදුරුවන්ටත් උඩුක කියන්න ගන්න. උන් move වෙන්නේ උන් එතන බිත්ති එල්ලිලා ඉන්නෝනේ උනුත් මත් වෙලා වගේ, right? අපිත් මත් වෙලා උනුත් මත් වෙලා, right? That's the strength of the coil. Like how unhealthy it is a different thing. The idea is here again, the grasshoppers are also just like that, sticking to a place, not moving because of what? Because of this heat, crazy heat. And what is happening here? His elder brother carried a small tin Elder brother. Jagan had elder brother now, right? You come to know Jagan's siblings here. His elder brother carried a small tin. He is carrying a small tin as befitting an elder brother. If it was a little one, it was passed on to Jagan. If the grasshopper was a big one, elder brother is going and just hunting it, catching it, capturing it. If it's a small one, it was passed into Jagan. Right? That's the idea. But on no account would Jagan be permitted to catch one himself. Even in small days, Jagan was not allowed to catch a grasshopper himself, because when you have big brother, right, he is very controlling. You have to get the permission out of him. Younger brothers can't do things, right? That's the negative part of being a younger brother. So in the same way, Jagan couldn't catch anything himself. He has to wait for the permission from the big brother, right? So big brother is catching the big ones, small one is catching the small ones, right? If you have brothers, you know this. They are kind of, sorry for the word, but pain in the ass, right? I mean, like, ගෙදරට මස් ගෙනාවත් මස් හැදුවා තූ තමයි ලොකු කුට්ටිය ගන්න. පොඩි එකාට දෙන්නේ පොඩි කෑල්ල. Just he gets the lion's share, in other words, right? In the same way, Jagan will be permitted to catch one himself. He could only stand behind his brother and wait for his luck with his own little tin in hand. He's behind brother. Brother is doing the catching big ones, and he's waiting for his chance with the small tin behind brother. Jagan remembers all these things. This would go on all afternoon. They are playing the entire afternoon, catching grasshoppers. That's it. Until the grasshoppers learn to anticipate their footfall and to hop off to safety. And they were catching, maybe they are releasing, right? But they're catching anyway. And even grasshoppers knew by this sound and their foot sound, these guys, these two people are just kind of disturbing us, our peace here, right? And they just learn to hop to safety. Means when they hear the sound of footsteps, they also just jump. Grasshoppers also hide, right? Goes for their safety. And as this activity is going on for a while, the whole afternoon is catching grasshoppers. And sometimes the sister would trace them down the Jagan has a sister. Sister trace them. Doesn't follow, trace them. Kind of stealthily just come and watch. Would trace them down there and follow them doggedly. Doggedly means kind of in a tricky way, she follows. එකපාරට ඉන්නේ නිකන් බලන්න ඕනේ මොකද්ද වෙන්නේ කියලා එකපාරට ඉන්නේ නිකන් හෙමින් doggedly kind of hanging idea pain නැති වෙන්නේ හෙමින් doggedly uttering sinister remarks. Sometimes she said bad things, uttering sinister, dark things, sinister remarks. You are killing the animals here. I'll tell father they are just found dead every day in the tins. Says the sister. See, you guys are killing the animals here. I'll tell father. They are found dead every day in tins. You kind of sinners. What kind of a play is this? Killing animals and putting them in tins, right? Kind of violent animals. It's like saying now, sister is saying kind of nasty things and sinister things and just still following them, right? You will both go to hell, she adds. Jagan was afraid of this blackmailer. For Jagan, this sister was a kind of a blackmail, right? I mean, like, this is too much for Jagan. Me mono විකාරයක්ද මේ අපායට යනවා තාත්තට කියනවා අම්බවල් බලන්න ටින් වල මේ සත්තු අල්ලලා දාලා යනවා මොකක්ද මේ? Just like she's and Jagan kind of scared of this, kind of afraid of these words and the way she approaches the things, telling father going to hell makes him little unsettling, right? Would plead with her to leave them alone. But right, and she's saying, Jagan is pleading. Ane apita poddak inna denna, ඔයා ගිහින් ඔයාගේ වැඩ බලා ගන්න. Just like nicely, right, Jagan is saying to his sister. But the elder brother would say, let her talk. No one wants her here. If she speak to father, I'll ring her neck. Let her talk. Kiyang onada? Kiyapang onada? Right? No one wants her here. Then අපි දණ්ඩ ගැහුවේ මෙයාට මෙතනට. එතන එනවා නැට්ටාගේ, right? If she seek to father, okay, තාත්තට මොනවා හරි කිව්වොත් I'll ring අනේ ඔගේ බෙල්ල කොටලා දානවා. Ring her. I mean like ring, just like ring means the idea is like you do this for chicken's neck, right? You just sometimes how the chickens are killed when just wring its neck, just. And rear himself out menacingly means jump, kind of just to scare, right? Just jumping. Rear himself up menacingly means threateningly, and she would run away screaming in terror. Can you imagine, right? The sister runs away, right? Does she deserve it? I think so, right? They never liked me, reflected Jagan. I mean, like, sister didn't like me, kind of big brother didn't like me. Those are the ideas that came. Even they had a good youth. Suddenly, Jagan reflects in the current context, right? Even the brother has issues with Jagan. Sister nowadays have issues with Jagan. So it's a sad thing. The sister had married a wealthy village idiot. What happened to the sister when she grew up? She married a wealthy village idiot. ගමේම හිටපු සල්ලි තියෙන හොඳ මෝඩෙක් බැන්ද අක්කා, right? We don't know whether it's a little sister or young sister. Come to that later. Became rustic and brought forth an ugly brood. Became rustic means a characteristic of rural life. Unsophisticated is called rustic. The idea is on the data Bugella, Godek Badala, Godek Koda. That's the idea, right? She also become Godea. That's the idea. Rustic means something like that. Uncharacteristic of rural life. There's no sophistication, there's no complexities. She also became the same. That like that man, right? Became rustic and brought forth an ugly brood of children. That's right. And the brother had cut all contact after the division of their father's estate. So because of their father's estate means some kind of a land problem, maybe because of some plot, right? Because of the father's estate, Jagan's brother had problems with Jagan. So for some reason, now they don't have that initial closeness, right? This friendship, this brotherly love they were sharing when they were young. So these things happen. These things even common nowadays, right? How intrigued they would be if they knew the full story of Mali. Since the advent of grace, all his relation has ostracized him. So he's thinking like, wow, how intrigued they would be, how fascinated these guys, this brother and sister would be if they know the full story of Mali. That Mali has brought a woman who is an American woman, is not even married. It's a big sin according to their Hindu belief. It's like, it's not acceptable. It's not more than a sin. It's not acceptable. That's because even cousin is a Hindu, but cousin's attitudes are totally different. So it's not a Hindu. It's not a kind of religious thing itself. But it's like it's like a Victorian way of seeing things. Because this is post-colonial India. It's like Victorian virtues, Victorian morals were still prevalent. Maybe that's affecting Jagan here. Since the advent of grace, since the arrival of grace, all his relations has ostracized him means kind of rejected him. Ostracizing means having the social distance, just keeping them at a length, ostracizing, kind of discriminating. ostracize him. The only remainder he had from his sister was the postcard a year ago on the back, which she had written suddenly. Now, this is a fact. Everyone knows that Mali has married an American woman, and that has upsetted some people, especially Jagan's sister. And sister has sent her a postcard, sent Jagan a postcard. And can you believe in the postcard what the sister has written? We are ashamed to refer to you as a brother. We are very ashamed of you, Jagan. To call even a brother. Sahodari cannot ledjai. Even when you joined Gandhi and lost all sense of caste, dining and rubbing shoulders with the untouchables, going to jail and getting up all kinds of shameful things, we didn't mind anything. See, the high attitude, the kind of a uh, the point of view, perspective of these people. The sister says, right, when you followed Gandhi and associating all this casteless, I mean, like low caste people rubbing shoulders, again, මේ ගාන්ධිත් මහත්තයත් එක වැඩ කරද්දී ඒ freedom fight එකට සහභාගී වෙද්දී you lost the sense of caste. මේ නිකන් පන්තියක් නැති පහළ පන්තියේ උන් එක්ක එකට වාඩි වෙවි කකා බිබි උරෙන් උර ගැටිලා ඉන්න එකටත් අපි උඹට සමාව දුන්නා. මේ වගේ දෙයක් කරලා. Right? And going to jail. Not even that, you went to jail. What a shame for our family. All kind of shameful things. You stood with the untouchables. It's a very big kind of a, is a massive kind of a phenomena that hurts the pride of this high caste people. You know, untouchables, when they, you know, you learn this in religious studies maybe. I mean, like, when you see untouchable, if you are a high caste person, when you see untouchable first in the thing in the morning, you either go back, you cancel the work and just go back and just wash your face, or you meet them in the road, you will probably spit, right? Two. Spits. See, that's the kind of attitude they had at a certain time towards the untouchables. So, so that's what she says. Like shameful things, we didn't mind anything, but we didn't say you anything. When you even have done those things, like you are working with untouchables, you are fighting, and you're taking part with untouchables and taking a movement, right? But now it is a fact that you have beef-eating Christian girl for a daughter-in-law. Now you have a beef-eating daughter-in-law. Because that's the attitude they have towards Americans, right? Americans, beef eating is just natural. For Indians, it's a very one of the deadliest sins. So now she's using that just to attack Jagan, right? So beef eating daughter-in-law. I can hardly call your brother in the presence of my in-laws. I can't call you a brother. I can hardly call you a brother. I'm so ashamed of you just to call you a brother. No one can blame Mali for a father like you, etc. This is not Mali's fault. This is your fault. Because you are a weak father. You are an impotent father. You are a father without authority. So how can a man without authority, a coward, is supposed to bring out a child with morals and good choice? If Mali has bad choice, it's because of you. You are fully messed up. That's the idea, right? So this is something strong, kind of strong accusation from the sister towards Jagan, right? That's the today's situation. How they have ostracized, how they have kind of kept Jagan out of contact. I mean, like, they don't want any social contact, any moving around with Jagan. And she concluded with the gratifying thought that their parents were fortunately dead and spared the indignity of watching these unsavory activities. So she even adds the postcard, right? She even ends the postcard with something. Lucky you, our parents are dead, our mother and father is dead, unless just to see what you have done and what is the outcome, right? අපේ අම්මලා තාත්තලා මැරිච් එකම වාසනාවක් නැත්නම් ඔබගේ මේ මල විකාර දැකලා ඒ මිනිස්සු කලකිරෙනවා, right? Something like that. Unsavory activities means unhealthy activities. What accusation, right? Jagan had heard that his brother, who lived in the Vineyard Street, often spoke of him in anger and shame. Even the brother. Sometimes Jagan get this news from others. Even he doesn't meet them anymore. That brother even hates Jagan and speak about him in anger and resentment, means kind of hatred. He lived in Vineyard Street. He never invited him to join him in performing the anniversary ceremonies for their father. Like every anniversary, after a father demise or parent demise, you even our culture, we have this, right? Commemorating and just, giving up, like giving alms and, engaging in kind of religious activities just to commemorate the anniversary of the death of a loved one, very dear loved one, right? So we even have that. But here, Jagan's brother didn't even invite Jagan for that family event of anniversary of ceremonies for their father's death, the death anniversary. Not invited. Even a child, right? 3 children: brother, elder brother, Jagan, and sister. And elder brother and sister maybe probably joined, but Jagan was not invited. He was an orthodox man who managed the headquarters of a religious order, established 10 centuries ago with 1 million followers, and had begun to disapprove of Jagan's outlook long ago. So what has happened to what has happened to Jagan's elder brother? He became an orthodox man who managed the headquarters of religious order. He followed a kind of a certain religious order. It means he joined into a certain religious cult. Not a cult, actually, certain religious order, right? It may be in Hinduism, right? I don't know. It's not said. It's a kind of religious order. He joined it and established 10 centuries ago and 1 million followers. So this religious order had its own followers. So Jagan's elder brother has joined this. An orthodox man means he's just a man, kind of a conservative man, who doesn't think radically, who doesn't think differently. He's just following the path of many people that follows. And for some reason, because of this reason, religious reasons and everything, he hated he disapproved Jagan's ideology or Jagan's outlook of the life a very long time ago. His remarks were brought to Jagan from time to time by common friends and relatives, and occasionally by the cousin. So what the brother says is known to Jagan by cousin or some friends once in a while, or relatives occasionally by the cousin, whose standing was secure everywhere. Cousin had approval just to be anywhere, right? He is like everyone except cousin. No one has a problem with cousin, so cousin can be anywhere. So through that medium, right, sometimes Jagan is receiving this kind of information about what his brother think about him. How can you expect a good type of son when you have a father like Jagan? That was the accusation. Right. There you go. How can you expect a good type of son when you have a father like Jagan? Same way what the sister says, right? They are sharing certain kind of accusation against Jagan. What would they say if they knew the latest development? And Jagan is really worried. What would they think now if they know Mali and Grace are not even married? They will be really happy because they don't wish to continue any family ties or any close relationship with Jagan, right? So the more Jagan is messed, the more they are happy, the more they are right, in other words. So maybe this is one reason, if you really think, why Jagan became extremely upset when he found out that Namali and Graces are not married. So we were thinking like for Kasim, we found right, she's not that disturbed. He was suggesting certain ways just to fix these things. But Jagan acted as a kind of a person who is not open to these kind of suggestions, and he acted in a very rational way just to not approve this kind of a union. So now we find some kind of a connection, maybe some kind of a motive why Jagan acted this way. Because he has this family pressure. He has these relatives right around him. If they know this thing, would again reflect very badly on Jagan, right? So that's the idea. And what would they say if they know the latest development? They would doubtless remove themselves even further. They will even ostracize themselves further. Jagan felt grateful for being an outcast, for it absolved him from obligations as a member of the family. So even Jagan, for extended, enjoyed being outcast, means cut off from this family, because it absolved him means it's kind of freed him from obligations as the member of family. Obligations are duties. Absolve means kind of freed him from family duties or member of the family duties. So that's a good part of it. They don't when you don't have relatives, you don't have to go for their functions, right? Right. අක්කගේ දුව බඳින එකට යන්න ඕනේ. තව කාගේ හරි මොකක් හරි අපි කියමු this like big girl party. යන්න ඕනේ. That's a good thing when you don't have relatives, right? But I'm just saying it's not good. But anyway, that's what how Jagan feels, right? Otherwise, they would be making constant demands on the time and energy. There you go. Unless if he had these ties, if he had this connection, they would ask like constant demands, like constantly, endlessly, constant, always demanding, asking for his time and energy, compelling. Compelling means kind of forcing him to spend his time in family caves, right? It means like underline this word, sitting on carpets, like in the family conclaves, right? A kind of conclave is a kind of a confidential secret meeting. It's a kind of a idea here. So Jagan felt relieved. Jagan felt happy. He is not anymore sitting on these carpets with a lot of kinsmen relatives exchanging banalities while awaiting the call for the feast. In other words, in these functions, family functions, everyone just sit together, right? Relatives sit together, talk, gossip, talk about banalities, means boring things, day to day, kind of not interesting stuff. So they were just talking in these family gatherings and sitting on the ground, sitting on a mat, right, carpets, while awaiting the call for the feast, means lastly they just eat. So that's going on. That's what the ultimate end of all this meeting. So Jagan feel thank God, I'm not part of it anymore. So it's good that they have cut me out of this family tie, so I don't want to take part in these kind of activities anymore. Thus, he escaped the marriages of his nieces. He escaped means he didn't get the invitation, so he didn't go. So he escaped the marriage of his nieces, the birthday of his brother's successive children, and several funerals. He all missed. So this guy is not going for funerals. This guy is not going for weddings. This guy is not going for all these parties and anything, right? Totally free. Because relatives don't want him, and okay, for him it's good. I don't want relatives. But I think right? So it's a kind of a good thing for Jagan. Jagan was kind of happy inward, right? What does it show? Jagan is a kind of introvert, in other words. Extrovert people will be devastated with something like that. Extrovert is a very open social person that wants social contacts and have like to just move around people. We'll be devastated. We'll be really emotionally bothered or perturbed or disturbed because it's such a kind of a end. But for Jagan, he's not sad about it. He's not. He didn't feel like he was losing anything. In the other hand, he felt like he was gaining something. Gaining is absolved from his obligations. Absolved means he's free from family duties. So it shows that he's an introvert. Means he has a introvert is a kind of person. Maybe among you there are extroverts in your class. You have extroverts and introverts. How to find extroverts do sport activities. Extroverts do scouting. Extroverts do these things. Debate teams, English literary associations, whatever they take part. Introverts kind of silent. They think to themselves. They all their thoughts are with themselves. All thoughts are focused inside. They're kind of shy. They're kind of not taking part in this extrovert kind of external activity. So we see kind of a dynamic here as well, right? We'll keep that in the background. Jagan was passing the statue when the green car with the Malian race drove in past. All this time Jagan was now flashback. This was all flashback. Now back to reality. Why was Jagan taking the back door? I mean, like that lane that hasn't been used for 50 years, because just to escape Malian race. Now what happened? When he was going to the shop, all these thoughts came while he was going to the shop, right? Once he was going to the shop, now the green car with Malian Grace drove him past. Right? Such a coincidence, right? Uh, Mali applied the brakes and waited for Jagan to come up. Mali stopped the car and was waiting for the father just to come to the car, right? Grace opened the car door and asked, "Want a lift anywhere? Do you like to go anywhere, father? Want a lift anywhere?" "No," said Jagan and tried to pass on. No, 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 I don't lift. And try to pass on means just to walk on, right? "Where are you spring cleaning your home, father?" Sorry, he was asking, "Were you spring cleaning your home, father? I heard the sounds of your activity." I mean, like, uh, the next question for Jagan was, "Are you cleaning your side, father?" I mean, like, we know for all these times, like Jagan have these cupboards and everything, right? Their stuff were like for 7 years was inside. So suddenly the question for Jagan was, "Are you cleaning your side, father? I heard these voices, I heard these noises today. That were you spring cleaning your home, father?" "Yes, I was trying to clean my surroundings." Jagan, yeah, I was cleaning my surroundings. I was cleaning where I was living. Said Jagan, putting into word a new meaning. I mean, like, all this time he was not spring cleaning or anything, right? He was barricading himself. He was kind of separating himself. And since they were asking, yeah, yeah, I was spring cleaning and putting into word a new meaning. Mali sat staring ahead, saying nothing. And Mali was in the driving seat. Staring ahead means looking front. All this conversation was with Grace, right? Jagan noted Jagan noted serious, careworn look in his eyes and felt a tug at heart. Like, looking to his son warms his heart sometimes. A tug in heart means a pull in heart. It's like his heart strings are kind of moved, right? He felt a kind of sympathy, kind of a mercy towards his son. Like, why? Uh, his look in his eyes maybe a little weak, maybe it's kind of careworn. It's like kind of withered, kind of tired. That's the idea, careworn. And felt a tug at heart. If he could have recklessly announced, Jagan wanted to recklessly means carelessly say these words to his son, but he cannot, right? That's the idea. He could have recklessly announced, "Long live your story writing machine. Here, take my bank book, it's yours. I have no use for it. All problems will be at an end." I mean, like, shall we highlight it? Long live the story writing machine. Here take my bank book. It's yours. I have no use for it. All problems will be at an end. Like, what's this problem? Are these problems between you and me is because of this money? Something like that, right? I don't want money. Ah, just take it. That's the kind of idea that Jagan felt. He want to scream loud, right, to his son, and he wanted to end those problems by just giving his band book. Okay, do whatever you want. He felt like saying something. He felt like giving up for a certain brief moment of time, a fraction of time. He wanted to say this, right? I don't want any of these things. No, not all problems. Again, one part of his brain says, no, 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 all problems will not be solved if you're giving your bank book to Mali. What about the marriage? They are not married. Will that be solved? That problem will be solved if you give your bank book to Mali. No, right? Uh, these two sittings so close with their these two sitting so close with their legs touching and not married. Father saw inside the car, right? They are so much very close to each other, right? I like their legs touching and not married. That's how lovers stay, right? Even when you travel in the bus, right? අපේ රටේ ඉතින් බස් වල යද්දි දකින්නෝනේ බස් වල කොනේ සීට් එකනේ ගෑනු ළමයි පිළිම ගෑනු ළමයි ගුණ රට ගානවා පිරිමි ළමයා ගෑනු ළමයි වතුර පොවනවා right කෑම කවනවා something like that. That's how lovers when I think when ආච්චිලා සියලා එහෙම වාඩි වුණාම sick මොකක්ද මේ විනේ මොන විලි ලැජ්ජාවක්ද මේ මෙහිමද ඇසිරෙන්නේ පොදු ප්‍රවාහනසේක මෙහිමද මේ. It's like this. You get this, right? It's kind of a what you call this kind of a vague kind of a sexual jealousy is there, right? But anyway, that's how father feels. Their legs touching and not married. But here's the crime, right? It's not married. Right? What was their relationship? What kind of relationship this to have each other? Right? Now they were saying these things against each other, and yet they were nestling so close. Yeah, that's what Jagan can't understand, right? Now, Mali says Grace has to go to America. Mali doesn't care whether Grace stays sometimes at home or leaves at home. But now together with their legs so close, right? ගැටි දැවටි මේ මොන මලවිකාවයක්ද මේ කුන්දෙන්නම මේ. Just like that's kind of the idea comes to the father, right? What was their relationship? What's going on? The father is totally confused, right? Sees the generation gap, right? The father's way of thinking is totally contradicting, totally opposite for this kind of a generation's thinking patterns, right? And yet they were nestling so close. Nestle means like birds nestle, just like very close. They are nestled together. Later, Jagan confided in the cousin, I had half a mind to accost them then and there, but I let them go. So sometime later, Jagan says this to cousin. I had half a mind to accost them. Kind of accosting means then and there, but I let them go. He wanted to kind of speak or just give the idea how he feels about them. The father wanted to speak. Accost has many reasons, like many meanings. But here we'll take the superficial meaning of speaking to someone or address is accosting them and their, but I let them go, I didn't speak to the couple. I will find another opportunity to clear up this whole business once and for all. Father says, like, I missed it today, but again, if I get a chance, I'll definitely speak this and clear these things, right? By his architectural arrangements, Jagan had isolated himself so thoroughly that he didn't notice until a fortnight later that Grace was no longer there. Yeah, it's another revelation, right? No longer there, and that there had been hardly any movement in the front part of the house. So now Jagan has insulated, barricaded. So once you insulate, what happens is you don't hear the noises, right? You don't hear who's out there, what's the conversation goes on, like it's totally covering yourself. Even he shut the ventilator, can you remember? So nothing happens in that part could be heard or could be conveyed into this part of the house. So what happened was Jacob didn't notice until a fortnight later, until 2 weeks almost later, that Grace was no longer in that part of the house. Grace has left. And that had been hardly any movement in the front part of the house. And there was no movement in the front part of the house. There's no sound, nothing. One morning he was so intrigued by the silence that he stood beside his door and applied an eye to the keyhole. After removing a little paper ball he had plugged into it. Now Jagan also wondering, right? Normally on any other day they can hear at least little voice that Grace is there anywhere, or just some cleaning activities may be taking place. So, but for like fortnight it was not there. There was huge silence. So Jagan also wondering, like, why is this silence? Why is like it's kind of a desert? So there's no noise. So what he did, he moved he peeped to the keyhole. That's his activity, right? Of how to nose into other parts of the house. And he removed the paper ball he had plugged into it. I mean, like the keyhole was even sealed to the extent that Jagan has gone. Keyhole, even he has put some paper ball in it, and now he has removed it and just peeped and watched what's going on. Why is this silent? And he saw no one, but he heard some movement in another room. There's no one, but he heard some sound in another room. He put the plug back into the keyhole and straightened himself. I mean, like he again put the plug keyhole, that plug, that kind of paper plug into the keyhole, right? Went round by the backyard and arrived at the front window and stood peering through the half curtain. He went to the backyard, came to the other side of the house, and peered means like a secretively looked through the window, right? Look through what? It's a front window, and stood peering means look searchingly. Like what's going on in that part of the house, right? Where why isn't there no noise, right? So these things Jagan was very curious about, inquisitive about. He was trying to figure out what's going on in that part of the house, right? And he couldn't see anything through the half curtain. There was this half curtain, and Jagan could not see anything. But Mali called me from within. Even Jagan can't see what's inside. Mali was inside, and Mali could see it. And Mali from within called, "Who is it?" Jagan tried to tiptoe away. Jagan tried to tiptoe means silently slither away or just go away, right? Because Mali was crying like Mali was asking with a high pitched voice, "Who is it?" A little later, before even Jagan moved, right? Mali opened his window, saying, "You could have knocked." Just knocked in the door. You should not have knocked on the door. Why are you peering, right? Through the curtains. So, no, said Jagan. I didn't want to. He tried to retrace his step through a side lane. Jagan said, no. I didn't want to knock. I just just peeped. That's it. And he tried to just leave the place, right? Mali watched him for a moment and cried. Mali watched the father for a while and cried, means called back, "Father!" So Jagan was thrilled. Hearing this word, father, made Jagan thrilled. It's a fascinating word for like, just like tate. The word itself, sometimes if you have not a strong relationship between your father and you, sometimes if you just say the word tate, can just gives a kind of emotional pang, emotional thrill to a father. Definitely, right? So father was thrilled, Jagan was thrilled. After many days, he was called father again. There you go. After many days, after a long while, he's being called father again. He stopped. The boy asked, Mali asked, "Why do you crawl? Why are you crawling around like this?" Write down if you don't know what is crawling. Crawling means loiter about with no apparent aim, kind of lurching. Okay, just loiter means just walk aimlessly without an aim. It's crawling, right? Why do you crawl around like this? Jagan said in confusion. Jagan asked in confusion, "Where's Grace?" Straight to the subject. "Where's Grace?" Son asked, "Why do you want her?" Mali asked gruffly, kind of a brusque, ill-natured way, right? "Why do you care? Why do you want her?" "Because I have not seen her for a long time," said Jagan, feeling bold enough to make that statement. When son asked, "Why do you want to know about Grace?" "Because I have not seen for a long while," said father, kind of in a brave way here, right? Mali said, "How can you hope to see anyone when you have sealed yourself off and used that back door? It looks silly." Then Mali asked from father a kind of a question. How can you hope to see anyone? How do you know people are in this part or not in this part or leaving or staying when you have just barricaded, when you have sealed yourself, insulated yourself off and going from the back door? You are not even using the front door. So how do you know what's in this part of the house? Asked the son. "It looks silly. It looks stupid." Jagan pretended to attend to a jasmine bush as he noticed his neighbor watching them with great interest. Jagan pretended, Jagan acted in a way, attend to a jasmine bush. Jasmine bush was there and he was like, attend to it. Why? ජේගන් රඟපෑව දැන් ජැස්බින් බුෂ් එකක් ළඟ එකට නිකන් සාත්තු කරනවා වගේ මොකද මේ CCTV. CCTV ඇවිල්ලා. Just like, I mean, like the neighbors. He saw like a neighbor was watching. Huh? In old days, that's the problem. Notice his neighbor watching them with great interest. ඕපේ බලන්න අල්ලපු ගෙදර කෙනෙක් හොඳට බලන් ඉන්නවා, right? So Jagan immediately noticed this, and as he stopped talking and just like pretended as if attending a jasmine bush, right? You know this experience, right? Sometimes even nowadays we have this experience. So imagine old days, it was even severe. Yeah, in these villages, this is a Malgudi, it's a village, and village folks are very inquisitive. They really want to know what's going on around. So I mean, like the girl is not here for a while. The girl is not to be seen. That has been noticed by the neighbor. Man is living alone for a while. If they are married, why is he living alone and why the woman is not there? Is a big question for neighbors, maybe. And the father has come to this part. Why is father separately living and using the back door while back door while Grace and Mal is using the front door? Maybe another question for the neighbor. If he's seeing this thing, why is this? He's going this way and they are going that way. They are going from the front and this guy is going from the back. Maybe a question for the neighbor. And now the man has come to speak with Mali, his son, from the back side. I mean, like from taking the other route. Is also something odd, something weird for the neighbor. And maybe neighbor is kind of inquisitive just to know what's the deal here, what's going on, is there a problem? So Jagan immediately was attending a jasmine bush as he noticed his neighbor was watching them from great interest. Ever since he bought that house, this man has done nothing except watch our house. I wish I had bought it when it was offered. Jagan thinks, right? Ever since he bought that house, means ever since the neighbor got that house near Jagan's house, he's watching at this house. He's just keeping an observing eye, a surveilling eye on this house. And Jagan think, I wish I had bought it when it was offered. Jagan wish like, if I had, yeah, I should, when the opportunity was there, I should have bought that house as well. But that's the idea, right? I could have given it to Mali. There you go. If I bought that house, I could comfortably stay in this house and given that house to Mali and Grace. So that serves the purpose, right? That entirely serves the purpose. Because that's separate, they could separately live there. So Jagan feel like, in other words, Jagan have money. If you want to spend, he have money. Okay, let's keep that in mind. Just to buy a house, he's rich, right? Give to Mali. He'd have been near enough and far enough too. There you go. If I have given that house to Mali, Mali is close enough as well as far enough. You can have a pain නැති නොප කියන්නේ අතේ දුරින් ඉන්න. පෙනෙන නොපෙනෙන දුරින් ඉන්න. Right? So it's enough distance for him, right? Jagan was lost in these speculations for a moment. Jagan was lost in these thoughts for a while. And Mali also noticing the neighbor. Mali also saw the neighbor was watching. Suppressed his conversation means stopped the talking. His suppressed means he kind of restrained, thwarted the conversation. Jagan said, I want to talk to you both. Why don't you come out? I want to talk to you both means I want to talk to you both. Just come out. Let's go out and just talk. Just to evade, just to run away, just to escape from the eyes of that inquisitive neighbor, right? That's the idea.